Hi everyone, thanks for joining today. My name is Nicole Winfrey and I'm a Principal Solutions Consultant here at Sage Intacct. And my specialty that we'll be focusing in on today is Sage Intacct Budgeting and Planning, or SIBP for short. So I'll start off just with a quick overview slide and then we'll jump right into the demo to see the product live. So when we talk about an ideal planning solutions, there are some key characteristics that stand out and that are crucial for a modern planning solution to have. You know, the whole goal of having a modern planning solution is to create a clear vision to guide strategic and informed decisions. And there's different ways of being able to achieve that goal. One being cloud-based and being updated on a regular basis, where the burden of upgrading is really on Sage Intacct. Also, it's easy to deploy. So being able to leverage all that great dimensionality and work that's located in Sage Intacct, but use that within the budgeting and planning tool so they can stay in sync and work together as one. The third is really around self-discoverable functionality. So this is really key within SIBP. So you're able to easily create a base budget, but then also utilize things like rolling forecasts, various modeling that you can create from scratch that doesn't need high technical knowledge. It's really self-discoverable, where by just using the product, you're able to pick it up really quickly. Also on the modeling capabilities, having a system that can handle multiple scenarios, versions, and being able to easily run what-if scenarios to be able to make informed business decisions. And then, of course, collaborative. So being able to allow teams across the entire organization to input, report, really take accountability for their budget, and that being housed in a single source of truth with that collaboration built in. So for today, we'll be talking about planning within SIBP. Some of the key other functionality than what we just talked about previously was the powerful connection with Sage Intacct. And this is a really important thing to point out because a lot of tools don't necessarily have that built-in integration that works so smoothly to complement each other. Obviously, having actuals, being able to maybe seed a base budget that you can go ahead and modify and update with the latest and greatest, and then being able to use that, push it back to Sage Intacct and utilize the reporting that's so robust in Sage Intacct. So having that bi-directional capability with data, dimensions, and structure is fantastic. It saves a lot of our customers a lot of time. Of course, we mentioned about the self-discoverable functionality. We'll see when we get into the tool how easy it is. And also third, and definitely not least, being able to maintain the system is key, and not having it to be a huge burden on your team. So being able to have some pre-built templates and reports, really have that modern planning experience that's really nice to work with a tool instead of it being more of a pain. And so, we'll take a look at how we can plan, report, analyze, and also forecast within Sage Intacct. So just a quick view of what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at integration with Sage Intacct and how you actually create a budget, how a user would actually go in and modify the budget, using those self-discoverable models to be able to drive the budget, and that would lead to allowing for that what-if scenario modeling. We'll also take a quick look at employee planning and how that can be achieved within the tool, as well as a short description of collaboration, as well as some of the built-in reporting and how that data integrates back to Sage Intacct for even more robust reporting. All right, let's get on with the demonstration. One of the key benefits that SIBP, or Sage Intacct Budgeting and Planning, has is the pre-built bi-directional integration with Sage Intacct. This really helps when creating a budget from scratch using Sage Intacct data, and it also will help when you want to load actuals into the budget tool or push your budget back into Sage Intacct to take advantage of that really robust reporting. So what we're going to do is create a new budget from scratch through the wizard that's built into SIBP. So it will ask you, how do you want to build a new budget? We'll go ahead and use my Sage Intacct data. And so when I log into the system here, it's going to access all the data, the dimensions, that structure that's built within Sage Intacct, so we can leverage it to build our budget from scratch. So since our Sage Intacct environment is a multi-entity environment, you have the option to choose all entities, or if you want to focus in on a single entity, you can do that as well. We'll select all entities. And then this is where you set your original budget settings. You can name your budget, you can choose a budget type, and also the date range of how you want to create your budget. This is a really important screen that I want to bring your attention to. Is about importing dimensions. So within Sage Intacct, we have department, location, because it's multi-entity, customer, vendor, and item. Well, typically, we don't see customers leveraging a very low level of detail like customer or vendor to create budgets for, but they do want to be able to leverage department and location to create a budget forecast using our tool. So we'll go ahead and select department, location, and you have the ability to choose which of those within those dimensions to include in your budget. Also, the direct integration with Sage Intacct includes employees. So if you want to import your employees, so you can do budgeting and forecasting at a named employee level, you can do that as well. Many organizations budget at a higher summarized level than what is in your GL account string. So you can see here that if we scroll down our accounts, what we have done here is we have the ability to group salaries and wages, commissions, payroll taxes, and benefits, and group that into a single budget line. So this makes entering budgets a lot easier if you like to do that at a summarized level, and you'd be able to identify those accounts and budget lines right within the setup wizard. Also, as you define your budget structure, we can see that we have our account groupings like revenue, cost of revenue, operating expenses, and so forth. And we also have those available dimensions that we want to apply in SIBP. We are able to determine which dimension we want to budget by for each of those account groupings. So for example, for revenues, it makes a lot of sense to be able to budget revenues by locations, not necessarily by departments, because that's how we track revenue, and that's also how we track cost of revenue. But for operating expenses, we want to be able to track that by department. So sales and marketing, accounting, finance, other G&A, and so forth. So we're able to determine those budget structures right within the setup tool. Another great thing about SIBP is being able to populate your base budget based upon actuals or budgets from Sage Intacct. So when doing that, you can identify the fiscal year of the actuals and budget within Sage Intacct to be used to populate that base budget to start with. So we'll go ahead and use our actuals from January through May and our budget from June through December to populate that initial budget. Not only can you determine the type of data within Sage Intacct, but we also can set global changes when first populating that set of data. So for example, if we know we're going to try to decrease our operating expenses by 5%, but we're going to give our employees a 10% salary raise and also increase our revenues by 3%, we can make those blanket adjustments right from the wizard. So we can go ahead and click next, and what that's going to do is log into Sage Intacct, be able to create that budget structure that we determined through the wizard, load that data into the tool, so when this is finished, we have a fully functional budget in the budget structure that we want, as well as the data with global adjustments made.